Clair Obscur Expedition 33 shot to the top of my must playlist from the first time I saw it. An RPG clearly inspired by the ones I played growing up, with a unique story setup, a classic overworld map, active turn-based combat, let alone coming from a passionate indie team. It checked all my boxes, genuinely looking like a breath of fresh air in a genre that I've come to know all too well. The biggest question was if it could stick the landing. Could it truly be everything it set out to be? Well, it is. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is fantastic, a game that I couldn't stop playing from the moment I got my hands on it. The story is rich and unique, the cast likable and interesting to get to know, the graphics and art style are genuinely jaw-dropping, all built on a combat system that makes each fight a nail-biter. While not everything is perfect, the small things seem to fade away in Expedition 33's ambition, making it a must-play for RPG fans. Clair Obscur takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, one where a rapture tore the world up 67 years prior. A giant being known as the Paintress appeared, every year writing a new number on a massive mountain, counting down from 100. Every year, when the Paintress reawakens, she paints a new number, with everyone at that age falling victim to the gamage, all disappearing at once in a swirl of petals and loss. Expedition 33 is the latest group setting out with the intent on stopping her. Things go quickly awry, the group is separated, and players pick up with Gustav as he tries desperately to complete the mission. When one falls, the rest continue, a credo the adventurers live by. The rest of the story is one steeped in intrigue and questions. Who exactly is the godlike paintress? Where did she come from, and why does she paint? The slow unraveling of all of this is fascinating and incredibly unique, and while it doesn't hit every note, overall it's a fantastic narrative that kept me locked in. The characters make up a big part of that, with each party member and supporting cast being memorable in their own right. The core party members all carry some form of trauma or loss, and learning about each one of their stories is worthwhile. From Gustav's warm relationship with his sort of sister-daughter Mael, to Lune's quiet determination, each character gets a moment to shine. They feel like a family, each connected to another and to the overall goal in their own way. While the story here is dark and can get pretty heavy, it's also surprisingly hilarious and light at times. The way the cast poke and prod at each other, finding light even in the dark, brought joy when it was needed most. It was never cheap either, with these moments of brevity working far more often than they didn't. That's life, there's light and dark, good moments and bad, trying desperately to push forward with the ones that you love and care about. Expedition 33 captures all of this in spades. The paintbrush-like beings known as the Gestrels are fantastic side characters and brought a smile to my face all the time. They're all quirky and weird, they're obsessed with fighting just because. They're dumb and cute, and I do absolutely anything for them. The combat in Expedition 33 is dynamic and exhilarating. It's turn-based with active moments, quick-time events popping up on screen during attacks. Time them properly and the attack or support skill gets stronger. Miss and they do less. You can also dodge enemy attacks, avoiding damage entirely, or trying to parry with the chance of doing a counterattack. Characters have a basic attack that regenerates AP, which is used to cast stronger spells and skills. AP can also be used to fire off projectiles, which can be aimed at weak spots on enemies for more damage, breaking shields, destroying other projectiles, or even body parts that depending on the enemy. Eventually, you get access to gradient parries, which can counter stronger enemy attacks that suck the color out of the screen, and gradient attacks, which can be charged up and used for super stronger attacks. That's all just the standard stuff that every character has access to, but on top of that, each party member also has unique mechanics that could have honestly been entire systems in any other game. Gustav, for example, is the most straightforward. Some of his attacks build his overcharge, being able to be unleashed for a high damaging attack. Miel, on the other hand, has different stances that affect damage output, how hard she gets hit, and cycles in and out of them depending on which attacks you choose to use. Lune, who's a more classic mage, generates stains, different bits of elemental energy that can be used to deal more damage or heal more depending on which elements are in reserve. Each party member has a unique system, and while it can be overwhelming at first, when it clicks, figuring out how to use each character to their maximum output is an absolute blast. Each have their own skill tree that adds stronger abilities, but abilities and status conditions can support each other's greatly. For example, Miel has a burning attack that can set enemies on fire, where Lune can then follow up with an attack that regenerates more AP when it hits burning enemies. There's a lot of interplay between characters, with each one feeling genuinely powerful and important. Every fight becomes a death-defying dance, a push and a pull not just between your party's attacks and the enemies, but also bringing the player in. I can't even count the amount of fights that had me on the ropes entirely, down to just one party member and odds that were feeling impossible, but well-timed dodges and parries got me through. Your moves and skills are important, but learning the flow of your enemies, their weaknesses, their attack patterns, everything coalesces and makes the player just as integral as the combatants. I made it through fights I was under level for just because I learned the enemy and danced my way through, and when those moments hit, they make even regular fights incredibly satisfying. When the game punches up and brings in huge enemies and boss fights that are cinematic and massive, it makes that second-to-second gameplay come together in truly memorable fashion. Expedition 33 also has an incredibly clever accessory system, where each party member can have 3 different accessories called pictos, each carrying different stat buffs and abilities. The design here is fantastic, with each one collected being a potentially game-changing ability. You have standard fare like increased counterattack damage, but you also get ones that can modify your parries or dodges, or even increase AP or specific abilities. After using a Pictos for 4 battles, the ability gets unlocked for the entire party. Each party member has a specific amount of points they can then use to assign Luminas, which are the aforementioned buffs. It's so nice to have them unlocked for the entire party instead of having to shuffle the item across each character that may benefit from it, taking out unnecessary grunt work that maximizes player choice and build. Expedition 33 does that a lot. It feels fine-tuned to keep the action moving and consistent. Leveling up is just a few attributes. Each character gets 1 weapon, 3 pictos, 6 skills. There isn't a ton of loot to sift through or evaluate. It's an RPG that's totally focused on keeping the player engaged and moving. Even in its side content, there aren't a ton of checklists to wade through and collectibles to find. The one that is there are fragments of past expeditions, and it's so interesting to learn about those that came before. The optional stuff that is here is designed to be brief changes of pace. A volleyball-like game and a climbing platforming challenge clearly inspired by Only Up are a few examples, both fun and a welcome reprieve. Expedition 33 respects the player's time and focuses on keeping momentum in a great way. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is also incredibly gorgeous with amazing art design. The world is packed full of detail and variation, each environment different than the one before. The Gothic art style feels visually smashed together with classical architecture and modern day pieces, where a Ferris wheel can be found stuck in a massive valley surrounded by cliffs. The world is broken and fragmented, a dreamlike scape that embraces an otherworldly vibe, making each new area feel like a dream. This extends to the overworld map as well. It looks just like a giant diorama brought to life, full-scale minifigure playset personified. There aren't any random battles here either, as you can clearly see enemies on the field. It brought me back to the overworlds of RPGs I grew up with, capturing a feeling of exploration and play that can get lost in the larger-than-life open worlds that are all too common now. While Expedition 33 gets a lot right, it does trip in certain aspects. Performance on PS5 Pro is mostly fine, with the performance mode being a relatively stable 60 frames per second, but dips are present. The lip syncing specifically is noticeably bad, with the mouth animations looking completely off more often than not. One thing that the combat is noticeably missing is any form of accessible enemy compendium. There are a lot of different enemies, each with different weaknesses, and there's no way to keep track of them. It gets frustrating using the wrong move on enemy that's a resistant or even worse, absorbent to certain elemental types. Having some sort of compendium or enemy log to access in fights would have been a welcome addition. All in all, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a huge success. The battles are tense and electric, bringing the player into them in a way that most turn-based systems can't compare to. The story is unique and well-crafted, taking huge ambitious swings along the way. The world is gorgeous and enthralling, rewarding exploration without inundating the player full of checklists. While there are some things that don't hit the mark, overall, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a confident and impressive title, one that RPG fans cannot miss.